guys and welcome to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. So today I'm going to be unwrapping Final Fantasy VII and also Final Fantasy VIII. It's a twin pack game, but I'm going to be reviewing Final Fantasy VIII. I haven't actually done a review on Final Fantasy VII, the original. I don't know why I haven't done that, because that is my favourite Final Fantasy of all the Final Fantasy games. So yeah, let's have a look around the actual box itself, and then I'll play the game. I won't show too much of the game, because I don't want to spoil it for you guys who haven't played it. So Final Fantasy VIII is on this cart, and also Final Fantasy VII. So even on the cart, it's so awesome to have two games on one cart. I think that's amazing. And yeah, can't wait to actually show you some footage and do the review on Final Fantasy VIII. So Final Fantasy VIII wasn't one of my favourite Final Fantasies, to be honest, and the reason being was because after playing Final Fantasy VII, it kind of set the bar for me. So whilst playing through 8, it just took me a long time to actually get into it. I think I was on disc 2 when I really started to get into it, so it took me a while. Now, this version of the game, compared to the original one that came out on the PS1, is a remaster. So the graphics are better, especially on the character models themselves, but in terms of the actual backgrounds, they look really bad. I mean, they should have at least done the backgrounds a lot better. It's a kind of a shame, to be honest with you, because I have played this on the actual Xbox One, and it's on Game Pass as well, to be honest. I played it on Game Pass. So whilst playing it on Game Pass, I could see a lot of the actual problems, especially playing it on my C1 TV, and some of the backdrops look really, really bad. I mean, they did all the summons and stuff, and like I said, the character models looked really, really good. But, when it came to the actual backdrops and stuff, they kind of I don't know, they just kind of rushed it, and I think it's a really missed opportunity. I know this is a bit bad, me coming straight into the review with a negative, but to be honest with you, aside from that, those things that I've just mentioned, it depends on what kind of a person you are, because to be honest with you, when I was playing it on the Xbox, I could see everything, and I thought, do you know what, this looks really terrible. They really should have done a better job, especially if they were going to make a remaster of a Final Fantasy VIII game, or any Final Fantasy for that matter, and they've done a poor job. But playing it on the Nintendo Switch, I know this is a Nintendo Switch review, right? So let's bring that back. But playing it on the Nintendo Switch, it looks good. I'm not going to lie. I mean, those things that I could pick out on a big 65-inch TV, they didn't bother me on the Switch. I couldn't actually see them, and they actually kind of blended in. I mean, they're still there. You can tell if you really look, but they're not as bad as they are on a full-blown 65-inch TV, if you know what I mean. But anyway, in terms of content, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered basically offers you nothing over the original, aside from better graphics, and obviously some areas do look good, some do look bad, like I've mentioned. But that aside, I had a really good experience with this game, and I didn't actually think that I was going to play this game through to the end, and I actually did, and I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, there was some bits that this game can't get away with in 2022. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played the game, but back when I was a lot younger, I'd soak all of that up and enjoy it. But I've got to say, the setting and everything of this game is amazing, without giving too much away. I didn't like it when I was a kid, maybe because I came from Final Fantasy VII, like I said, set the bar for me, and this was totally different. This is like worlds apart. It's totally different. But playing it now, many, many years later, it really, I really appreciate the game. I really actually appreciate the game, and I really want to go back and play Final Fantasy 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, all of them. I just want to play them all, because when you're younger, your brain is underdeveloped in terms of knowledge about the world. So when you go back to something many years later, you're either going to appreciate it or you're going to hate it. It's one of those things. But I really appreciated my time playing Final Fantasy VIII on the Nintendo Switch. Okay, so in terms of gameplay and enhancements, This version of the game does have boosts by pressing into the analog sticks, and these include, for example, triple speed, no random encounters, and also combat boosts. But sadly, Square decided to allow maxed out hit points and more boosters only for PC. Neither of the three consoles has these options, and I think that's another missed opportunity. So the only real similarities that I found in Final Fantasy VIII compared to Final Fantasy VII were that Squall, the main character in this game, is an up-and-coming soldier of the elite military force known as SEED. Now, SEEDs are often deployed around the world, and they can handle everything from delicate political situations to less trivial matters that can be happening right in your back garden. So while Squall is actually dedicated to becoming one of the best members of SEED, he has no problems rising to the ranks of SEED, but like with any teamwork orientated job, he must learn to work with and rely upon others to get the job done. This often proves difficult for young Squall, as he's constantly battling against his own inner demons, and that take the form of his past on top of his already introverted personality. Sounds a lot like Soldier, right? Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So yeah, that's the only thing that I could say that was very similar to Cloud in Final Fantasy VII. But aside from that, I know I mentioned earlier, the world is totally different, and that's a good thing. And it's really like it has multiple paths, this game, and you're always trying to guess what's going to happen, and that's really awesome. That's what kept me glued to my Nintendo Switch whilst I was playing the game. So it's not too long before Squall and his comrades discover that their path leads to unearthing dormant memories, repressed connections, and a strange dreamlike state that has key characters experiencing the lives of others through their very own eyes. So narratively speaking, Final Fantasy VIII achieves its greatest success through constantly keeping you guessing as to what's going to happen next. But that guessing game proves to be a double-edged sword, and the reason for that is because all the mysterious things that are going on in all the different places and cities and advanced civilizations, some of them don't actually tie up in the story, and I think that's a bit of a downside in the actual game's storytelling, because not everything is covered, and a lot of the stuff that they showed didn't really need to be shown. It was just there, I think, sometimes to be a filler, because right towards the end of the game, there was times where I was still thinking, what is actually happening here, and I was trying to make sense of it. It does make sense by the time you've completed the game, but there is things in this game that could have been done a lot better. So I just want to talk a little bit about Final Fantasy VIII's combat and gameplay. So at its core, it's similar to its previous titles in the franchise, utilizing the turn-based or active time battle combat system, but it leaves behind the materia system which was established in Final Fantasy VII, its predecessor, in favour of a brand new junction system. Now this mechanic is the biggest component of character progression, as this is what determines how your character utilizes their skills and magic and all that kind of stuff to the junction system, and also using summons, also known as Guardian Forces in Final Fantasy VIII, so they've changed the name to Guardian Forces. So in order to amplify your stats and capabilities in combat, Guardian Forces are unique from one another in what power they offer to the wielder. So limit breaks also return in FF8, and they are very different to the ones that we got in Final Fantasy VII's Gorge based system. So in order to use a limit break in Final Fantasy VIII, you can be low on health. Now there's a trade-off here, so you can keep your party members on low health and keep spamming a limit break, but you got to remember that you're in one shot range, so if you get hit, you're gonna die. So think about that before you actually abuse your limit break situation there. But it can get you out of a lot of sticky situations, and there can be some very devastating and powerful attacks to be had when your health is low and your limit break is ready to, you know, be used and utilized in battle. I also want to mention the music in this game is absolutely fantastic. I mean, all Final Fantasy games have beautiful music, and the composer of the Final Fantasy games, Nobuo Uematsu, sorry if I butchered his name, returns again for the 8th installment in the series, and as usual, didn't fail to surprise me. The music in this game is really, really well done. It always is, and I just love listening to Final Fantasy VII, 8, going all the way back to Final Fantasy 1 actually, even the MIDI files and stuff. The music is epic in every Final Fantasy game like I mentioned, so I just had to put that in there. So yes, the music is very, very good. So normally when I review games, I like to give them a score out of 10. I'm not going to do that with this Final Fantasy game, and the reason being is it's one of those games you're either going to love or hate. Now, like I said to you in the very beginning of this video, I didn't like this game when I was first playing it, and that's because I didn't understand it. And to be honest with you, I still don't understand this game, certain bits of it, but it is a good game. There is some really good bits in this game. Like I said, I don't want to spoil them for you, and I really enjoyed my time playing it on the Nintendo Switch. And I think for £20 you can't go wrong, because that's what I paid for it, for a twin pack. So just call it a tenner a piece for Final Fantasy 7 and 8 on the same cart. You can't go wrong. So I totally recommend this game. If you haven't picked this game up, definitely pick it up. It's on for 20 quid right now. Go ahead and pick it up. I think it was base.com. So go ahead and, you know, grab yourself a bargain if you haven't played a Final Fantasy game on your Nintendo Switch, and you'll thoroughly enjoy it. If you're playing it on the Xbox Game Pass, I don't know if it's still on there, but yeah, it doesn't look the greatest on a big screen TV. But on the Nintendo Switch, I think it pulls it off really well. That being said, guys, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Please leave a like, leave some comments, let me know what you thought of the video, and I'll catch you in the next video. Please stay safe, and peace.